Yeah, I guess I'm live. Hold on. Let me verify the audio.
I guess I'm live.
Okay, yeah, good to go. All right, so I was not ready to go live, but you know what? I'm gonna do it anyway because I thought I had to click some stuff first, like, hey, uh, Anyway, so what we're gonna do is, well, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just do some live coding challenges while I enjoy this beer. And the reason why is because I suck at coding challenges and kind of wanted to work on my weakness, but I also wanted to do a live stream because I've talked a lot about coding challenges and how important it is to do coding challenges. So I wanted to subject myself to this experience in front of YouTube. So with that being said, I'm going to go to codewars.com and just start doing this. Yeah. All right, so I am going to have to remember exactly how to use this site because it's been a little while. So I got this on JavaScript. I can set it to TypeScript, but I don't see the point really. Let's do, I guess we go to Kata. Okay, that's right. And I think it's so the higher the Q, KYU, the higher the Q, the easier the problem. Give me just a second. Okay. Alrighty. So I just had to adjust the stream. Looks like everything's good. I'm going to, yep, all right, we're good. All right, so I'm going to click on let's start with something easy. This is 7Q, so this should be pretty freaking easy. This says the task is given an array. Let me zoom in so you probably can't see this. There we go. That might help. So it says given an array or a list of n integers, so n being any number of integers, arrange them in a way similar to and fro movement of a pendulum. The smallest element of the list of integers must come in center, and the higher than smallest goes to the right. The higher than smallest? What? The higher than smallest? What does that even mean? Anyway, the smallest element of the list of integers must come into the center position of the array. The higher than smallest goes to the right. The next integer number goes to the left. Oh, I see. So it's ordered from center, and then it goes right, left, right, left, right, left, all the way until you're done, I guess. That's this is kind of why I suck at these sorts of challenges because that sounds kind of challenging. I'm probably going to do that one, but let me also look down here just to see if there's something else because this is supposed to be my warm-up round. Steps in K primes. K primes transform to prime. Tidy numbers. Whatever. I'm supposed to be subjecting myself to torture, so I might as well just do this crazy one. So how do I, okay, so here's an input. 6, 6, 8, 5, 10, and the output needs to be 10, 6, 5, 6, 8. So 5 is the lowest number, then 6, and then 6, and then 8, and then 10. So that's super weird. I would never pass a Google interview. Never. Since 5 is the smallest, yeah, I think I get the rules. How do I start the challenge? I think I click train. Okay, so I have to write a JavaScript function that takes that, and then I can run some tests to make sure that it works, and I can actually use this as example input. And one of the things that I usually do is I don't like to code it in their code editor because look how small the window is, and also it's just not, they don't have like the best code completion and stuff like that, so I like to do it inside of VS Code. So I'm gonna do that. Let's guess we'll create a new file in whatever project I'm in right now. And wait, I can't really do this like that. I've got a sandbox folder somewhere. I'm gonna use that sandbox folder for this. Create a new folder, code challenges. All right, perfect. And then I'll just create a script.js file. This is where I'm gonna do my coding. So the first thing I will do is I've got way too many windows open, so let me close everything out. Perfect. So I will take an example input here. Actually, let me take a bigger one. And then I'm going to write a function that gives me the expected results out of this. So just so I can make sure that I have everything organized. There's the input. And that's the expected output. And then here's a function that's called pendulum. And this is supposed to take the input array and end up returning the proper output array, which is this crazy pendulumated ordered array. So let's see here. How can we do this? What's my thought process? Okay. So you can add things to an array two different ways. You can do push, which pushes an item to the end of the array. And then you can do, I think it's unshift, which allows you to put an item at the beginning of the array. So I'm thinking what I'm probably going to do is take whatever the input is, sort that using this. So we'll say const sorted. Whoa. Sorted is equal to input array dot sort, and then it should automatically sort it by alphabetical order. Let me take off my watch because I'm going to keep getting texts and it's going to distract the crap out of me, man. Also, thanks you for everyone that's here. I'm going to totally do this challenge. So I'm going to just console.log the sorted array just so I can see and make sure that this sorted function is working. And to do that, we'll just say in node script.js. I have to actually call the function, of course, with the input. So pendulum, and then let's pass the input. And right now it should just end up printing out like 5, 6, 6, 8, 10. That's what I would expect here. So definitely did not sort it the way that I thought it would sort it, because 10 is first for some reason. And you know what? It's because the way the sorting algorithm works, I bet it thinks because 1, like it took the number 10 and saw the number 1 and was like, that's the first number. So yeah, let's just actually do this the right way. So I think you can actually add in a function to the sort function to specify exactly how you want this to work. And I think it's been a really long time since I've written a manual sort function, but I think it's like, let me look at the documentation on Mozilla. JavaScript sort. Actually like number array. So I can see the exact A, B. So A minus B, that's right. So you have to return either 0, 1, or -1. So we can return A minus B, which should sort it. Let's go ahead and see. So yep, so now we have the sorted array. So what we want to do is go through this array. So I'll probably say sorted.map. Or no, we don't want to do map. No, we definitely don't want to do map. We want to create an empty array up here. So maybe const final r, set that equal to an empty array. And then we're going to for each through this. So sorted dot for each, gosh, and for each number, we're going to also want the index. And the reason why we want the index is because we want to determine whether or not we're on an even or an odd number in terms of like which step we're on or which index we're on. If that makes sense. So let's see. In order to determine whether or not we're on an odd or even number, const is even is equal to index modulo 2 is equal to 0. So now we know whether or not it's even. Now if it's odd, we want to unshift. If it's even, we want to push. So let's say sorted or final r, or let's do is even question mark. If it's even, then we want to let's say push, and we want to push the one we're on, which is num. If it's not as even, we want to say final r dot unshift num. Heck, let's see what this looks like. What is up with this? Oh, I'm still inside of a console log. Sure, let's do this. See what this looks like. Let's definitely not see what this looks like. And then let's console log underneath what this looks like, which is final R. Boom, boom. 865,610. I think that's the solution. I think that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in there and see. Oh, I gotta make sure that I return it. Return final R. And I can shorten this code up, by the way, but come on, you know. I'm not trying to be that picky, right? Let's see if this works. So I'm gonna run it with the tests first. Test. Network error. I'm pretty sure that my internet's fine. I mean, let me verify that by listening to my stream. Yeah, my internet's fine. I don't know what this is talking about. Let's try the retry the request. Check short length positives. Input array is not defined. Oh, I'm so stupid. Okay, I gotta make sure that I put values because I was using input array instead of values. Should be good now. I don't think I have any more references to that input array in there. I'll know in a second. Is this still trying to run that? This website is... No, why won't it let me run test? Oh. Expected 9,410 to equal 4,910. Did I just do this backwards? Is that all? Okay, cool. So click attempt. Yeah, looks good. Submit. Yeah, I mean, I did it. Cool. Woohoo. So I think one of the things that I noticed throughout my code challenging career is I'll read the challenge at first and be like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. But then as I start to think about it, I figure it out pretty quickly. Now that was supposed to be a super easy one, and it kind of was. So, you know, I've done some pretty complex ones on here that have taken me a day or two to figure out. I think I've gotten as high as 4Q. But yeah, for the most part, I typically am like, man, this coding challenge seems really hard. And then after a few seconds of rationalizing it, I tend to get it. So let's move on to 6. So that was a 7. Let's do a 6. Let's read about this one. Whoa. A natural number is called a k prime. And by the way, guys, I have honestly, I suck at formal math, so natural number, I know that that's something in math and I can't remember what it is. But a natural number is called k prime if it has exactly k prime factors counted with multiplicity. Like, honestly, I don't even know what that means. A natural number is thus prime if and only it has one prime. So a natural number is prime if it only has one prime. Okay, so a k prime would be 2, 4, 6, 9. You know what? I literally have no idea what this is talking about. So I'm going to just scroll down. Transform to prime. I mean, I know what prime numbers are, but that was, I don't know what it's talking about. Given a list of n integers, find the minimum number to be inserted in a list so that the sum of all elements of list should equal the closest prime number. So given a list of any number of integers, find the minimum number to be inserted inside of a list so that the sum of all of the elements in that list should equal the closest prime number. Huh. Thinking about this one, give me a second. Is there an example? 3, 1, 2. 3, 1, 2. So 1. Since the sum of the list's elements is equal to 6, the minimum number to be inserted to transform the sum to prime number is 1. Since this is, am I just dumb, or is this not making sense? It probably is making sense. I notice whenever I drink beer and code, I instantly become stupid. Since the since the sum of the list's elements is equal to 32 in this case, the minimum number to be inserted to transform the sum to prime numbers is 5. So the nearest prime number to 32 is apparently, that doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, let me find one that makes sense. Separate the wheat from the chaff. That sounds like it makes perfect sense. With cereal crops like wheat or rice, we can eat the grain kernel. We need to remove that inedible hull. It said, oh, to turn all the individual elements to prime. Okay, that makes sense. But now I'm off that one. So now I'm doing wheat and chaff. Before we can eat the grain kernel, we need to remove that inedible hull, or to separate the wheat from the chaff. Given a sequence of integers, separate the negative numbers from the positive ones. Oh, that sounds easy. Sequence size is at least 3. Return a new sequence such that the negative numbers come first, then the positive ones? That sounds way too easy. That's just sorting an array. That's just, I mean, I'll do it. How's this wait, this is 6Q? That's seriously, I don't know about this. It sounds way too easy. All right, I'm gonna do it though. Train. So 2, 4, -4, 6, -6. So I would expect -6, -4, 6, and 2. Yeah, we would just be sorting the array and then returning it. Okay, so we could just say return, and this is going to be an array, right? It says note sequence size is at least 3. Return a new sequence such that the negatives, blah, blah, blah. In Java, you're not allowed to modify, blah, blah, blah. Have no fear. It is guaranteed that there will be no zeros. Why would I care if there's zeros? Huh. Anyway, values dot sort. I just did this. A minus B. Is that the answer? No. Oh, you know what? Doing it that way with negative numbers. Wait a second. They want me to -6, -4, 2, and 6. Deep equal -6, -4, 2, and 6. 6 and 2. Well, which one's my output? Let's take this bad boy. Let's go to my secret layer, where I will then console.log wheat from chaff and pass in, I don't know which one is the input, but we'll just take this one. And let's see what this prints out. So -7, -6, 8, 9, and 10. Now that's definitely in order, but I think I might have misunderstood the question slightly, because it looks like I don't think I misunderstood the question. -3, -5, 11 goes to, okay, so -31, what? Return a new sequence such that negative numbers come first. Oh, so we're not supposed to rearrange it. Okay. So I rushed into that. I don't think we're supposed to rearrange it. We just want to take the negative numbers. Oh, okay, I got you. That makes a lot more sense. That makes it seem like it's justified to make it a 6Q. I get it now. So instead of it being like in perfect order, we want to maintain the order as long as the negative numbers are on the left and the positive numbers are on the right. But the fact that this sort function rearranges the numbers, it automatically disqualifies it. Got it. Okay. Sweet. So I have to change this up a little bit. I already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to return an array like this. And then I'm going to take two functions? We'll see. I'll do const positives. Actually, let me start with the negatives. Is equal to all values where, and we'll filter out all the values where each individual value is less than 0. And just to make sure that I'm doing that right, I'm sure I am here. Yeah, so those are the negatives, and then the positives will be the opposite of that. Now I get why it's saying, don't worry, there's no zeros. The instructions were purposely not super descriptive, eh? So we'll spread out negatives, and then we'll spread out positives. Let's see what this returns. I think that's the answer. I believe that this is the answer. Let's test it. Okay. Just so I can know which one was mine. -6, -7. Well, I don't know which one was the input and which one was the output, if that makes sense. Let's take a look. We know that this should be the output. The instructions on this one are very strange. So this is what I'm outputting. -6, -7. Is it just me, or I think I might have to switch websites or something? I mean, I'm sure that I'm just reading this wrong, but I feel like the questions that I've been getting have been super not clear. But I'm going to read it one more time. With cereal crops like wheat or rice, blah, 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 blah. The actual task. Given a sequence of integers, separate the negative numbers from the positive ones. Okay. Return a new sequence such that the negative numbers come first, then the positive ones. Oh, here we go. Some more rules. Repetition of numbers in the input sequence could occur, so duplications are included with separating. If a misplaced positive number is found in the front part of the sequence, replace it with the last misplaced negative number. The one found near the end of the input. The second misplaced positive number should be swapped with this. Oh my God. The second misplaced positive number should be swapped with the second last misplaced negative number. This is why I suck at these challenges, man. They just don't make any sense. Negative numbers found at the head should be kept in place. That makes sense. Do you guys have any recommendations for better code challenging sites than this? Maybe TripleByte or something? HackerRank? Let's do it. Apparently I had an account. 30 days of code, let's do it. Hello world. Does it know what language I want to use? JavaScript. Process data. Write a second line that outputs the contents of the input string here. Oh my god, this, okay. This might start off a little too easy. Did I accidentally delete the closing curly brace? I think I did. Wait, where's the closing curly brace? There we go. Now how do I run this? Okay. All right, it's running the test cases. Succeeded. So try random challenge. Zooming in for you all. Manasa loves the Nim game, in which there are any number of buckets, each having A balls. 2 players play alternatively. Each turn consists of removing some non-zero number of balls from one bucket. A player with lack of moves loses. And that's not how you spell loses. But Manasa, having played it so many times, she gets bored one day. So she wants to change the rules of the game. Hold on, a player with lack of moves loses? This must be translated from a different language or something. Anyway, so she wants to change the rules of the game. She loves prime numbers, so she makes a new rule. Any player can only remove a prime number of balls from a bucket. Okay, but there are infinite number of prime numbers, so keep the game simple. To keep it simple, a player can only remove X balls from a bucket if X belongs to the set 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. So S is a set. I'm assuming that's going to be provided to the function. And we can only remove that number of balls if it's in that set. Okay. So then at that point, I don't know if I have to necessarily care whether or not it's a prime number because I'm being provided the list of numbers, right? So the whole game can now be described as follows. There are n buckets, and the kth bucket contains A balls. Hello from Croatia. Which language are you using? I'm using JavaScript. Okay, so here I am. So there are n buckets, and the kth bucket contains A lower exponent k balls. A player can choose a bucket and remove X balls from that bucket where X balls belongs to S. So a player can choose any of the buckets and remove any number of buckets as long as that number is in the set S. A player loses if there are no more available moves. So the bucket, so if there's like, let's just say there's 10 buckets and you choose the third bucket, there is A 3 balls in that because K, yeah, I can't highlight that. It won't let me. But anyway, Manasa plays the first move against Sandy. Who will win if both of them play optimally? Input format. The first line contains an integer, t, the number of test cases. Okay. Each test case consists of 2 lines. The first line contains a single integer n. Oh, by the way, this is apparently hard difficulty. Awesome. Each test contains 2 lines. The first line contains a single integer n, and the second line contains n spaced separated integers, a1, a2, all the way through an. The constraints are t, which is the number of test cases, is going to be between 1 and 10. It looks like inclusively. And n is going to be between 1 and 10 to the 4th power inclusively. And a k is going to be between 1 and 10 to the 18th power inclusively. Print a single line containing the name of the winner, Manasa or Sandy, remembering that Manasa plays first, and they're playing optimally. So here's a sample input. One, two, three, four, five. So there's 5 test cases here. My apologies. The first line contains the number of test cases, which there's 2. Each test case consists of 2 lines. So here's the first test case. The first line of this test case right here contains the n integer. The second line contains n space separated integers. N space separated. The first line contains a single integer n, 2. The second line contains n space separated integers. How is that related to n? Each test case consists of 2 lines. The first line contains a single integer n, and the second line contains n space separated integers. I don't know how those are related. That's the number of integers. And then these are the actual integers. So this says 2, and then there's 2 numbers here, 10 and 10. This is 3 integers, and there's 3 integers, 2, 2, and 3. I guess that's what that's saying. Yes, that is exactly what that's saying. Got it. Okay. Before I read the explanation, I'm going to make sure that I fully understand everything this far. I think I do. But if I look at these, so here's the test case. I know that there's going to be 2 numbers. In this case, there's 2 numbers, 10 and 10. These 2 numbers represent, I'm guessing S, maybe? Although those aren't prime numbers. Are they? They are prime numbers. They're not prime numbers because 10 is not a prime number, obviously. So who keeps messaging? Let me throw my phone over there. So the test case line, that's the number of buckets, each having AI balls. I have to figure out what I is because I have to basically figure out exactly what these numbers represent. I want to make sure I fully understand that before I read the, or maybe I should just read the explanation and I'll find that out. So for the first test case, since both of the buckets have the same number of balls, so there's 2 buckets, each bucket has 10 balls. I guess that's what that's saying. But I swear, got it. You can only pull out. Well, where's the set? Is this the set? So the set is a constant. Okay, I did not realize that until now. So this set always is 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and 13. You can only remove those numbers of balls. Got it. Okay. So the first test case, there's 2 buckets. Each bucket has 10. The second test case, there's 3 buckets. The first 2 buckets have 2 balls, and the third bucket has 3 balls. For the first test case, since both of the buckets have the same number of balls, Manasa can now choose any of them for her first move. If Manasa selects to remove 2, 3, 5, or 7, obviously she can't remove 11 or 13 because that's more than the number of balls that are in the bucket. Now Sandy can always counter her move by removing 7, 7, 5, 3 from the first bucket if it's left with 8, 7, 5, 3 balls respectively. Now there are no valid moves left for first bucket. The same thing repeats for second bucket and Sandy wins. For the second test case, Manasa moves 3 balls from the third bucket. If I go up here, 2 or 3, 2, 2, 3, right, from the third bucket. Now if Sandy chooses to remove 2 balls from the second bucket, Manasa will empty the first bucket And if Sandy chooses to remove 2 balls from the first bucket, we'll empty that one, the second bucket, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so okay. So one more look at the rules. So she wants to change the rules of the game, blah, blah, blah. A player loses if there are no more available moves. Okay, I've got it. That took me a second to really wrap my head around the rules here. Let me know in the chat if I'm dumb. All right. So I'm provided this code here. Hold on. So I'm to complete this function right here. So I'm supposed to complete this winner function. Well, what if I don't want to do this? I don't have a choice. I spent way too much time on this challenge, so now I have to do it. All right, so we're using file system, standard in resume, set encoding UTF-8. The input string is an empty string. Current line is initialized to 0. So both of these are just basically initializing as the raw data types that they are. Process.standardin.on data. So it's gonna give me an input, and we are going to then, okay, so it's gonna go ahead and create that input string that looks something like this. Then on end, it's going to build that input string, get rid of some stuff, and then call main. And then if we go look at main, it says it's going to create a write stream for an environment variable. So it's going to go to the output, whatever that is. T is equal to parseInt readline 10. So that's base 10, readline, parseInt readline, readline. Readline is a function. Okay, since we know that each of these is a number, it reads that line, parses the numbers out, for loops through each of the lines. And then, okay, this is making more sense. Just, sorry, bear with me, guys. Const parseInt readline 10. So n is the current. Oh, that's the number of lines. And then a is, looks like an array of each of the numbers. So that would be each individual one of these as an array. And then result, it's going to call the function that we're going to write with that array. Okay. So in order to effectively have a good testing environment or a development environment while I code this out, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm going to copy this into my VS Code here. And I need to create, instead of having this environment variable output path, I'm just going to create a file here called output, and I'm going to change the path to output to that file. And obviously winner right now isn't returning anything, but what I want to do is just simply log whatever A is, because I want to verify that I'm right, that that's an array, and I want to return, I'm just going to always return Manasa here just for now, just to make sure that this function goes all the way through so that I can see what this file looks like when I save it. And I believe Manasa, right? That's the name, Manasa. Cool. So let's take an example input right here. But we have to convert that because I think it's gonna look a little bit different. It's gonna look more like the actual input isn't gonna look like that. It's gonna look like this. So we'll do, I'm guessing like new line. It's gonna be new line, new line, new line, like that, I think. And then obviously that's as a string. But the way that we're gonna pass it into, let's see what happens here. Let's just see what happens. Again, I suck at these challenges, but I'm gonna figure this crap out. Let's see. I think I was supposed to pass it in as an argument, so let's try that again. Maybe like that. Nah, it doesn't like this. Or did it create the file? No, I did not. See what I'm doing wrong. The way that this input works. So it's actually, another thing is instead of actual spaces, it's using / space like this. So we got to get rid of the spaces too. Let's see what that gives me. Still nothing good. So that must not be quite what it's looking for, unless maybe I need to wrap it in quotes. I doubt it. Nah. So I wonder if the whole standard in thing, let me console.log the actual input standard in and see if I can at least get some sort of output, you know what I mean? Or if, better yet, instead of doing it this way, I should just log it here just like I was doing. I know it'll fail the first time, that's fine, but at least I'll get some clues, you know what I mean? So let's return Manasa here, and then console.log A. So that'll give me what I'm looking, not Q, A. So if I run the code, is it gonna give me an output? It doesn't seem like it logged anything. Did it log it in my actual, let's see if it logged it in my console here. I see nothing. So it's not gonna let me console.log, is it? Wow, that's a bummer. Well, I'm gonna assume that it's an array because I really do believe it is. So with that being said, it's time to start writing some code. So we have any number of buckets, and they can contain up to a ridiculous number of balls apparently, because X, well, I guess that's this, right? So we gotta be thinking in terms of computation. So boy, oh boy, what have I got myself into? Really wish I could log this. Test against custom input. Upload code as file. I really wish it would let me log. Debug output, is that what this is? Okay. Okay, that's what that is. Let's verify that by putting a string before it. Console.log lol a. Let's run that code again. Yep, that's it. So I was correct, it is an array. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to determine who the winner would be if they played optimally and you want to make sure that whatever number of balls that's in the bucket, for example, 10, if there's 10, then you're going to want to make sure that they pull out the, I guess, the most amount that's possible. So whatever the highest prime number is, that's less than this number here. Okay. So we need to find the highest prime number that's less than. So one thing that we could do, but I'm afraid of how much CPU this is going to take, because if this can be 10 to the 18th power, I feel like that's a really big number. So I probably can't do what I'm about to do. It's probably going to say, hey, this isn't efficient enough. But I'm going to start with this and then iterate from there. But basically, I want to reverse the array. So maybe const reversed is equal to a dot reverse. I'm pretty sure. Do I not have code complete? Oh man, hard mode enabled. I think it's array dot reverse, right? Just bear with me. Yes. So we have the reversed array, and then what I want to do is call find on that. So the const highest prime that's not what I want to do. Anyway, highest prime. So actually, I should hard code these prime numbers. It won't let me do it. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. I can't copy it. Const capital S is equal to 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 13 is the last one. So that's the highest number allowed. So these are the prime numbers I'm allowed to work with. Highest prime would be S. So let me move this to the top. S dot reverse. So really I shouldn't call S dot reverse. I should just reverse these numbers so that I don't have to compute that every time, since it is a constant. 7, 7, 5, 3, 2. And the reason why I'm reversing it is because I want to be able to find the highest one, but I want to go through it linearly because that's just easier code to write. So let's say const highest prime and we probably want to make sure we find the highest one of these numbers too, right? Or does that matter? Yeah. Well, we want to, okay, so maybe we want to find the highest distance between the highest prime and the number. So let's start with the highest prime. I'm on the right track. The highest prime would be s.find, and I'll just do like underscore s goes to underscore s is less than A0, just for now, the first item. Okay, so now we've potentially found the highest prime, but we got to make sure that we find the prime with the highest distance between any number of items in this array. Okay, so we actually need to think in an extra dimension here as we loop through this. Because this will definitely find the highest prime for the first number. But let's say we have an array that's like 10, 5, 17. We would have 3 highest primes. The first highest prime for 10 would be 7. The highest prime for 5 would be 5. And the highest prime for 17 would actually be 13, because that's the highest one we're allowed to work with here. And the biggest gap between these numbers, I think that's what I'm supposed to find, right? Would be this one. Because the gap between 17 and 13 is 4. So I'm going to add an extra arrow. The gap here is 4, gap here is 0, and the gap here is 3. And the reason why I want to find the highest gap is because if I say, let's say do I want to find the highest gap? Yeah, I don't. This is a hard problem, man. I'm not mathy enough for this. All right, so 17, 3, 13. I might be totally on the wrong track here, but at least I'm figuring it out. Plus the pressure of being live on YouTube isn't helping. All right. I could be watching Netflix right now. What am I doing with my life? Let's see. I guess what I have to do is like sit here and seriously think about, I just created this input here in my head, this input right here, and I have to seriously think about the logic behind the game. If I was just literally Manasa and the other person, Sandy, if I was just Sandy and Manasa, and I didn't have any concept of computers whatsoever, what would be my logic behind winning this game? You know what I should do? I should get like a physical bucket. Here, let me, do I have anything I can use? I do have a bunch of guitar picks. Let's see, do I have something else I can use? All right, so I'm just going to use this huge thing of guitar picks here to kind of play this game. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 picks in that one. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Make sure I counted that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's actually 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 and 15. These are 2 buckets. All right, so I'm Manasa, so I'm going first, and I can pull out any number of picks from this bucket that are in the list of 13, 11, 7, 5, 3, and 2. And in order to make sure that I win, I have to make sure that when it's Sandy's turn, that she cannot play. And yet, so there has to be like 1 or 0 left in one of these buckets when I'm done. So the goal would be to essentially make sure that I pull out enough to where I can calculate the fact that when it's her turn, any number of turns from now, there will only be either 0 or 1 in either one or both of these buckets. This is kind of complicated, ain't it? Man, I'm not a genius. I can't do this. All right, so there's 8 in this one and 15 in this one. If I pulled 13 out of this one, there'd be 3. There's 8 in this one, so I could pull out, Sandy could pull out 7, leaving 1. And then I would have an opportunity to pull out 3 here. And then Sandy would have 1 only here, so I would actually win in this case. But what is the mathematical reasoning of why that's the case? Because that's what I have to be able to know in order to translate that to code. What is the reason behind this mathematically? And it might actually be the fact that I need to... This has to be an even and odd thing, right? It has to be. So what I just did was I pulled out 13 from here. There's a total of 15. That leaves 2. 2 is an even number? No? Is that what I did? There's 15. I did that math wrong in my head. So actually, I would have lost that one. So maybe it's 11 that I need to pull out. So 11, that would leave 4. 7 would leave 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That would leave 8. So no matter how many I pull out, it's going to leave an even number in this one. 3. Except for 2. So no matter what I pull out of this list here, no matter which number I pull out of this 15 picks, there's going to be an even number remaining in here except for the number 2, because 15 minus 2 is 13. That's an odd number. And I'm totally probably not even onto something right now. Oh man. Okay, but let's do that in my head, right? So I pull out 2. Now there's 13. Now it's Sandy's turn. Sandy can pull out 13 from here, and now there's 0. 8. I can pull out 7 from here now, and then she loses. Okay, I'm gonna try to play around with that idea of trying to make sure that I can pull out an amount that leaves an odd number, and we'll see if this works. So basically, I want to be able to find an item in the array where, and I don't want to call this highest prime anymore. And the question is, do I even want to loop through S? Instead, what I'll do is loop through A. Const left with odd is equal to a.find item. We want to find the one where we can remove some number that's in that list. So we want to return whether or not we can find. So we're going to do another find, s.find. We'll call it prime. We want to be able to find a prime number where we can subtract the prime number from item. But first we need to make sure that it's less than the item we're on. So we have to say prime is less than or equal to. Let's just, this is a hard freaking question, man. Anybody got the answer in the chat? All right, so prime is less than item, and what? Prime, item minus prime. We want to make sure that's an odd number. So we would say modulo 2 does not equal, does not equal 0. Okay. Let's see what happens when I log left with odd. Okay, so 10 and 3. 10, that makes sense, 3. But I also probably need to make sure that on the side of that, I also log A so I can just verify that with the results. Yeah. I mean, technically, yeah. I wish it would give me some other input though, instead of just these super simple cases. Wait, it said I can do it against custom input. Let's do, or let's just do 2 again. 18, 10, 11? I don't know. And then 2, we'll do 19 and 22. Okay, so 18 is the first number found in that list where I can possibly subtract some number from that array and be left with an odd number. Is that true? 18 minus 13 is 5. So that is true. 19, we could do 13, 9, 8, 7, 6. Let's say, no, that, what's another one? 11. 19 minus 11 is 8, so that's not 1. 19 minus 7 is 12. That's an even number. 19 minus 5 is 14. 19 minus 3 is 16. 19 minus 2 is 17. So that is true. Am I onto something? I have no idea. But that is a working find. Well, the number that I find that's left with odd, I want to actually pull that prime number out, the highest prime number that does that, out of that bucket. Right? So now, if I do index of on that array, so const index equals index of, well, it's actually a dot index of. Let me make sure that I look at the API and make sure that this makes sense. Array index of. Index of should return the index of the item, the first one, right? It returns the first index at which a given element can be found. Perfect. And we should assume that it exists because I'm finding it from that array, right? So left with odd. So now we have the index of the item that we're gearing that's basically our target. Then we want to subtract whatever this number was from that. So we can pretty much just take that logic and say const num to subtract is equal to a index and it should be s.find prime goes to a index. So actually this, let me just paste this in, boom. But instead of item, it's going to be a index. Let me log this to make sure that we are on the right track. Num to subtract, run code. I figured that might happen. Oh, wait, what? That's what I think I meant. Whoa, what is... I meant to... Yes, that is what I meant. Okay, run code. So 13 and 13. What's 19 minus 13? 9, 8, 7, 6? That can't be right. on the side of that, I also want to log left with odd. (19 minus 13). 6, that's 16. No, 6. 6 is not an odd number. Oh, minus prime. Also log that. Because I feel like maybe my logic for that's the same. I thought this was supposed to be the index. Yeah, that is the index. I'm dumb. Okay, so that can't be right because A index, by the way, is left with odd. So I don't know why I'm using this, but if prime is 13 and this is 19, 19 minus 13 is 6, this shouldn't have come back true. Const thing is equal to that. I'm just going to call it thing for now. And I want to just do some logs and figure out what's going wrong here. So let's start by logging each individual prime number. The A index, which is the left with odd number. And let's start with this, run it. I'd actually like to log it the other way around, just for ease of thought. So 18 minus 13 is 5. 18 minus 11 is 7. These are both odd numbers. I'm also going to, on the side of that, log whether or not it should be, so I'll log thing next to that and see. True, 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 true. They're all true. Why are they all true? What am I doing wrong here? Can't you see my brain's fried? Oh, thing equals A index minus prime. Is it because I need to do please excuse my dear Aunt Sally? Is that why? Yeah. Don't forget PEMDAS, kids. Oh, man. I just spent like way too many brain cells on that simple mistake. Cool. Well, let's return that. and then log it again. That's an odd number, and that's an odd number. Okay, now we're talking. Now let's actually do the, let's actually return the value that it's expecting. And the exact value that they're expecting back from winner is the name. Yeah. So they want me to do the full calculation here. So the full calculation, let's do it. Because I totally know the answer to this. Num to subtract. All right, so we have that. So let's actually subtract the number from the item in that array. So we're going to mutate the array instead of, well, we could totally not mutate the array. This might be a good case for recursion. Yeah. This could totally be a great case for recursion. Huh. Where basically we would call our own winner function. We would call the winner function from within the winner function. And it would always return whether or not the next person has a turn. And if it does, it would return their name. Otherwise, it would return the person's whose turn it is name. Gosh, I hate algorithms so much. Really just shows me how dumb I am. Const num to subtract equals s dot find. Okay, so I've got number to subtract, and I've got the actual number that I want to subtract that number from. If I do some undos, we can see that the second number is the prime number that we want to subtract. The first number left with odd is the number that we want to subtract from. So we're going to call this num to subtract from, just to be a little bit more concise with my naming. And then num to subtract is literally that. Now I no longer need to do a index because, well, I have num to subtract from. And just to ensure that we still get the same values, we don't, because left with odd is not defined. Instead, it is this now. Okay, cool. So we're left with the same number, so we're good there. So let's return. We could either do a recursive function, or I could loop through and just keep returning a new array. Gosh. Well, in this case, we know that the next person has another turn. That's for sure. Because if I pull out a number, both of these, there's still another turn available. So if I do recursive, then in this particular case, I should return whoever's turn it's not, and it's the first turn, so we should return Sandy. But since we're going to switch to a recursive style function, we need to return so we basically say if there's not another turn, if not another turn, then return person whose turn it is, whose turn it was before. if there is another turn, return other person's turn. Next person's turn. That's what we should say. Next person's turn. So first, determine whether or not there's another turn. And the way to do that is to determine whether or not any of the numbers remaining have a number greater than 1. So const another turn remaining is equal to a.find item where item is greater than 1. And we can convert this to a Boolean by putting 2 exclamation points in front of it. So another turn remaining is a Boolean that represents whether or not there is in fact another turn remaining. Okay. Now, if there's not another turn remaining, we want to return the person whose turn it was before. Unfortunately, I don't know if this logic is going to work, because what I would do in a real world application is probably change the way this function works in terms of input, where it would then it could return it would accept the previous array and the person's whose turn it was. But we can't do that here because this is what's calling it, and I can't change that function. So we might have to do a recursive function inside of this function, if that makes sense. So let's do that. Const find winner basically take this logic, move it into here. Then this function is going to do, this is going to be the recursive function. And what it will return, let's say if there's, I can't think recursively right now at all. Another turn remaining. Do I want to put this in here? Do you ever just code until your brain doesn't work anymore? I should probably stop doing that. Another turn remaining. If another turn remaining, else if another turn is remaining, we'll call find winner. And we'll say return find winner. Else we'll return whoever the current person is. In the beginning, it's Manasa? And if there's, before we do that, we should probably change the person who's playing to the other person. So current player is equal to current player is equal to Manasa. Then we'll return Sandy. Otherwise, it should be Manasa. And instead of calling it find winner, we should probably call it well, I guess we could call it that. Return current player. Okay, So this is a recursive function. So if there's another turn remaining, we're going to switch the current player to the other person, and then we're going to call the function we're in again. If we get to the point where there's no longer a turn remaining, we're going to return the current player, whoever that is. Is that the logic that we want? If there is no other turn, return, yes. Yes, I think so. So I'm gonna, just to see what this looks like, I guess we'll return find winner. This is probably going to be an infinite loop, which is gonna break everything and possibly freeze my browser, which will be cool. Let's see what happens. The fact that it's taking this long tells me it's probably an infinite loop. That's definitely an infinite loop. Is this gonna let it time out or what? Whatever. I could probably do this sober. Ooh, I have a notification. Anyway, wow. I guess the only way to stop it is to run another one. So what did I do wrong here? Probably a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Oh, well, yeah. I have to actually... I actually have to change the array. So we should not just return the winner, but also the new array. And the best way to do that is to return an array where the first item is the player and the second item is the new array, right? And man, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know. This thing's breaking my brain, to be honest. Let's look at some submissions. Ah, we got some geniuses up in here. Reveal solutions. Yeah, I'm just gonna give up for now. This is something I'd probably spend a little bit more time on, but since I'm on a live stream, I just kind of want to look at the answer and consider myself dumb in front of everyone. Let's see if I can find a JavaScript answer. Can I filter by language? No, I cannot. I'll keep going through till I find a JavaScript answer. See, this makes sense. You see, JavaScript people do not know how to do algorithms. This is all C++, Java, C#, you know, people that know algorithms. Us JavaScript people, we pretty much just know how to do web development, which is a completely different sort of thought process. Holy, wow. There's literally like no JavaScript answers. Come on, there's gotta be at least one. There's one. View solution. Let's see. So this is what they did. It looks like instead of, they changed up the whole situation. Let me see. So this boilerplate, I was actually allowed to change the boilerplate that they, I didn't know that. Okay, so they call process data. Process data takes the lines, determines the number of tests, runs a for loop through that, and then calls run algorithm on the line. Run algorithm then takes the buckets and then creates a variable called XOR that maps through, except the size returns Grundy. If we look at Grundy, this loops through the size. So from 0 to size returns math.floor number divided by 2. So I think I was kind of onto the right logic in the sense that we wanted to determine whether or not we could return an item. I think this is actually very similar to the logic that I was doing. Obviously, they were able to complete it, but I feel like I probably could have completed it if I spent more time on it. But honestly, that was actually a pretty challenging problem. Yeah. I wish I could have completed it on this stream. I feel like this ended up being kind of disappointing for you all. But anyway, I'll do another live stream after I take a break from coding. I should take a break. But for the next, maybe, let's see, the live stream's been going for 126. For the next 5 minutes or so, I'll do, I'll simply talk about some of my experience in web development and why I don't really care for algorithms so much, or not necessarily why I don't care for algorithms, but why I don't have so much experience with algorithms. So I'll start from the beginning, which is in the very beginning, I started off learning Python, and I started on Codecademy, and I kind of started learning, just like the basics of how to do for loops and everything, set variables, classes. I kind of got, I learned the majority of the language, but then I got into like more advanced topics such as meta classes and things like that, and I stopped with Python and moved over to C# and started working on game development. And I felt like if I would have stuck with Python, I probably would have gotten more into the algorithmic side and started doing a little bit, probably delved into probably C++ or something like that, doing systems programming. But when I took that fork and switched over to game development, I feel like I really went into more of a kind of client visual. What's the word I'm looking for? Like there's two really big different types of ways of thinking about programming. There's the algorithmic systems programming, and then there's the visual feedback programming. That's things like web development, game programming, GUI programming in terms of just like desktop applications, Android and iOS development, that sort of thing. And there's a huge gap in logic in the way you think about programming between these two. And I know this because I've done both, but just not nearly as much on the algorithmic side. I learned a little bit of Ruby, and you could use Ruby for this sort of thing. But I feel like with Ruby on Rails, the vast majority of people who learn Ruby end up doing web development anyway. But I bounced back and forth between things like Python and this sort of like visual thought process, whatever you want to call it, visual feedback programming for a couple of years before finally deciding, you know what, I think I'm going to stick with web development. And then I've been doing that for the past 5 years. And like I said, it's a completely different thing. I think the number one thing you have to keep in mind when doing the web development style programming is you have to constantly stay on top of the tools. You have to constantly be understanding new tools. But with the algorithmic style programming, if you're doing stuff in C++ and Python and that sort of thing, you really don't have to do that as much. It's the tools that you're using aren't changing nearly as often. So you can kind of learn things a little bit more slowly, but it is technically more challenging mentally because you have to learn, in my opinion, stronger mathematical concepts. But that's my spew on that. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. It was fun. It kind of hurt my brain a little bit, and I'm kind of disappointed I didn't finish it, but Have a good night.